Hi and welcome back to Nancy's Spoonful of Goodness. Today I'm super excited to share with you all a recipe that a good friend of mine have shared. She is a Puerto Rican and she's now have recently moved to Puerto Rico, back to Puerto Rico upon retirement. And when she visited me recently, she shared this recipe that I've always loved when she cooked it, but I've never learned to do it. And since she was visiting, I took advantage of it, and she had to step-by-step showed me how to do it. I'm super in love with it. It's such a healthy recipe. It covers your protein, it's got your complex carbs and a lot of fiber. And you can, the one thing that she told me is you can make it your own. So this recipe is not an exact as I am going to show you, and you can alter it to suit your own, but it is going to be one of your most favorite. For your ingredients, you have like a 16 ounce of ground meat. You can have ground lamb, ground beef. I love Italian seasoned meat, so I just usually buy that, and I took the sweet seasoned meat this time. I have 2 cups of mushrooms. I favor the cremini mushrooms, and I just dice them in the small little particles. And I have 2 cups of mixed bell peppers. Now it's summer, you have all these nice vegetables available in the grocery store, and so I take advantage of the color, multicolored yellow, red, orange bell peppers, and so I dice that the same size as the cremini mushrooms. I have a cup of tomato, a cup of yellow onion, diced also. Tomato is diced also. And it calls for a bit of seasoning. So you're going, upon sauteing this meat, you're going to need a cup of tomato paste, a half a cup of chopped cilantro, minced garlic, a half a cup. And for your seasoning, you need 2 tablespoons of oregano, a tablespoon of paprika, and a tablespoon of cumin. Of course, you're going to need your salt and pepper in hand, and a lot of olive oil when you mash the plantains. This calls for plantains, of course. This is a favorite in cooking for all Puerto Rican dish, and I guess a lot of Spanish dishes. And I'm sure you have seen this in the grocery store. They're almost always available in all grocery store. And you want to get the most ripe plantains. I saved this one and not cook it just for the sake of showing. But what you're going to do, you're going to need for this recipe, you're going to need about 4 or 5 of these. And I've already pre-boiled them. So you cut them and open them, cut them in pieces, small pieces, and you put them in boiling water, and make sure you boil it down to where it's really the softest. And then after this is thoroughly mushed, boiled, we're going to add the olive oil and mush it down, basically, to where it's almost like mashed potatoes. And we're going to use this mushed down plantain to layer into a casserole dish in between our sauteed meat and vegetables. So the second process is the sauteed meat and vegetables and all this spices. So after I mush it down, we're going to get it ready to layer with our dish later after we saute our meat. Put your heat on to medium-high, and just probably a teaspoon and a half of olive oil. You're going to add your meat and brown it. Add your onion. Give it some time to caramelize a bit. The mushrooms also do take a while to cook, so I don't take much time to add it in right away. I usually give it some time to caramelize. Give the onion some time to caramelize. But I'll go ahead and add the mushrooms to give it some time to soften up with the meat. Then let's add our tomatoes. Again, also to help soften it up. And have all the tomato juices mix in with the meat. And we'll add in our minced garlic. I'm going to use a wood spoon so it's not too noisy. This entire sauteing process is a bit laborious when you add in more ingredients, more veggies for your fiber. I like adding mushroom to add more protein and fiber to any dish. And if you're not a fan of mushroom, although this dish has the mushrooms all diced finely, so you almost don't notice it being in there. If you have kids that are picky with vegetables, this is a great way to sneak in as much vegetables in the dish, because it almost reminds me of shepherd's pie. When we get to the final phase of the cooking, you'll know what I mean. It's a layering, so, and they think that the mushed plantain is almost like mashed potatoes. So this is when we add in our tomato paste. This is about a half a cup. Oops. All right. It's cooking quite nicely, really fast. We're going to throw in our cilantro next so that that flavoring adds in. If you are not a fan of cilantro, you can alternate. You can switch with maybe parsley or oregano if you have some in your garden. It just adds in a lot more green, and I do love that cilantro taste. Okay, our spices: 2 tablespoons of oregano, a half a teaspoon of cumin, and a half a teaspoon of paprika. Then we'll taste it to see if it needs a little bit more salt. But this meat is already flavored and seasoned, so you truly you shouldn't need any more additional flavoring to this. You grab a little Yep, not much seasoning needed. Probably a little dash of salt and some pepper. And we are done with the second stage of this. Turn off my heat. And we're going to layer this with the plantain that we've already pre-boiled and mashed. Then bake in the oven. Okay? Okay, I'm back. So in the interest of time, for our very last phase of this casserole, I've already preheated my oven to 350, and we're going to go ahead and layer the plantain and the sauteed meat and veggies alternately. So I spray this casserole. I like to use a deep casserole dish so that I can put as much layer into it. First layer is a little bit of, plantain. I do like not to mush this very, very soft, so there's a lot more chewiness when you cut into it. I think I might need a fork to press it down. Okay, so I just went ahead and took a fork to press it down a little better for that very first layer, which is going to serve as your crust. Put a little bit more. I'm making a mess. All right. So I just created like just one layer, a little bit thicker layer. And then I'm going to put, this is our sauteed meat and veggies. I'm going to put about 2 scoops to layer it in. Hot. All right, just scooch it over all around just to make sure you have a good, might need a little bit more. Yep. Now another layer of plantain. I usually do not go for recipes that call for a lot of steps. Sorry, I'm making a mess. But this dish really gives you a lot of serving, and there's a ton of leftovers, and it's one of those dishes that is even better as a leftover. The more it stays in your fridge, for some reason, the flavor, all this flavors from the meat soaks into the plantain, and it makes it so much better after the second day. So it's really worth it, even if you spend one time chopping and another time for boiling the plantains and mushing it, and then you have to saute the meat and the veggies together and the spices, but it's so worth it. When these flavors starts to blend with the sweetness of the plantain, it is the bomb. I do love this. You want the plantain to be your top cover, so leave quite a bit of plantain for the top covering. And when you put this in the oven, make sure you have like a pan underneath, like a baking pan underneath your casserole, because some of the olive oil that is already infused into both the meat, sauteed meat, and the meat and the plantain, because when you mush the plantain, you have to add a lot of olive oil, so it may bubble up when you bake it. So this goes in the oven for about 30 minutes, and you'll see that the top will start to crust over, which makes it so much more yummy. Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of the plantains. Then we're going to stick this in the oven that's already preheated for about 30 minutes. This is how it's gonna look. In 30 minutes, I'm going to put a pan underneath so that we don't have any mess in the oven. We'll come back in 30 minutes to check this out. There you go. Be back in 30 minutes to taste this. Okay, I'm back and we have our cooked plantain or platanos casserole. I've allowed it a few minutes to rest so we could cut a piece and taste. So it's beautiful. It's got all that crusty plantain on the top and smells so good. I wish the video could capture the smell. I've cut a pie piece, almost like a little pie piece, just to check for you all. I wish you can taste too. But this is so delicious. It's become my favorite. I have to almost make it once a month. The leftover is phenomenal. The recipe is going to be below, and if you guys have any comments, questions, please throw them in for the comments and I'll make sure I follow up real quickly. And if you like videos like these, please subscribe and like. I would like to thank my amiga, my very good friend Lily, for this recipe. And adios until next time. Thank you. Bye.